Right. Greetings, everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful day. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of A Way of Lyfe. I am a career and business coach using astrology. I do a lot of videos based off of the major astrology going on, especially with the full moons and the new moons. And the reason I do that is because this energy can give you a general overview as to your career and business choices. I also recently expanded my business where I have about 4 or 5 readers, and they do all kinds of readings. They do love, they do business, they do career, they do life path readings. And You can access that information on my website at awayoflyfe.net, and life is spelled Lyfe. I currently have a promotion going on for the grand opening. First 5 minutes free on any call. And if you don't have time to sit down and take a call, all of my readers have a chat feature that you have to sign up to, and you can text back and forth with any questions that you might have for them and or get a reading via text. And I currently have my Jupiter and Aquarius video out with all 12 horoscopes for all 12 signs on what area of life this is playing out for you, when you can expect to see any of the Jupiter and Aquarius benefits. And I also have the Sagittarius new moon video out, which would help give you a bigger a well-rounded idea of what to expect and what's going on for you moving forward for the new year. And if you sign up to my VIP list, you'll get the Sagittarius eclipse free. The Sagittarius horoscope free. So you can find all that stuff on my IG page or Facebook. IG, I'm on there way more than Facebook. Today I came on here to talk about the Great Conjunction. This is probably the most exciting news outside of Jupiter entering Aquarius this year. I'm going to break it down, talk a little bit about the history, and I'm going to add some of my esoteric and metaphysical information, kind of what to expect. And this is not specific to any one sign. This is also a general overview. And if you want to get a reading on any of that, you can, again, contact me on my website. All right. The Great Conjunction happening on the winter solstice, which is December 21st, is a cosmic reset. This event happens every 20 years. It brings a shift on a global and personal level. It's the energy of endings and beginnings of dynasties. All the rulers, masters, and political figures of the world will change. This also happens to be this energy comes with like the death of an authoritative or high level figured person. So after doing a lot of research, I think if I went back twice, and the first one was Reagan, who was assassinated, and I think the other one was John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated. And don't quote me on the Reagan one, but we all know about John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated. Both happening through Earth conjunctions, by the way, not specifically air. But this is still comes with that energy, the death of a high-figured person. And there was an attempt on George W. Bush when he was in presidency, and I think Reagan was the other attempt, and I don't know who was the other assassination. But I think we can expect to see either something happening to Biden, and whether it'll be a death or not, I don't know, but it's a possibility, right? That energy is there. And I know everybody's like super excited about, you know, our president, the presidency changing. I don't know why I can't think of his name. Just goes to show you how much I watch TV. But nobody liked our president. But he actually did a lot more for us than people realize. You really, really have to do your research, folks, and wake up and understand what time it is. I have no foot in the game of who's president. I don't even pay attention to that stuff. But when you really get into this information, you understand what it means to decode things and learn the language and how they kind of control us through media. And that's kind of what my background in education and cosmology is. The class that I took, they teach you signs and symbols and how to, you know, notice when somebody is telling a lie or, you know, fudging the truth, if you will. But we could see something there about that. But it's the beginning and ending of cycles. This will prepare you for the next 20 years. So anything coming up at this time really is the trajectory of what your life is going to unfold over the next 20 years, which is why I say go back to listen to the Jupiter and Aquarius videos, because that's going to give you a more full picture of what to expect, as well as the new moon in Sagittarius. I would even also include the Gemini eclipse we had on the 30th, November 30th, because all that energy is conclusive, and eclipse energy lasts for 6 months before it actually happens and 6 months after. And the Gemini Sagittarius axis will be there starting from this year, June, all the way for another year and a half. So a lot of major changes in all those videos. I definitely strongly will go back, take notes, just to get a fuller picture of what to expect. The last time this happened was in 1405. We have to look back at that time to see the changes that happened, to kind of know what to expect moving forward. Also, we're starting a 20-year conjunction cycle for the next 20 years, and a 200-year cycle of conjunctions in air signs, and 2,000-year age of Aquarius. So specifically because the 20-year conjunction in Aquarius happening right now while all this is happening is really making that energy way more powerful, and a lot more like set in stone, if you will. Things are going to change. Like, this is a portal, this is an opening, this is an activation of some serious change. It's going to be fast moving because it's air signs. It's going to be very futuristic because Aquarius rules the future, and Saturn moving into Aquarius, even though Saturn is mostly related to the past, it's also a very futuristic planet. So, but more stable in structure. So, like, I feel like Saturn being in Aquarius is kind of going to be like that guide. Like, don't remember what you learned the year 2020, because we learned a lot of valuable lessons this year. You want to take those and hold on to them to ground you. That Saturn energy, it's Earth. You want to stay grounded. Also, as well, just keeping in mind that because Saturn does rule the past, not everything we need to get rid of. Some things from the past we need to keep. Some things are still very valid and important to our, humanity and how we move forward. So not to throw the what do you call it, the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to get rid of everything if it's not necessary. But things that are weighing you down, holding you back, those things are going to fall away regardless, especially with Pluto still being in Capricorn until 2023. And I'll be getting more into all of this stuff right now. But things will move faster, and the vibration is going to be a lot higher because Aquarius rules the higher mind. Yeah. So the last 2,000 years have been in earth signs. Earth is a more heavier energy. It rules material, mechanical machinery, factories, resources, land. It's an earth sign. Oil comes from the earth. Steel, food chains, agriculture, regulations, which is why, these elites who have been in power for the last 2,000 years, they're going to do their damnedest to, kind of stop this from happening. Structure, what I own, again, just going back to that very dominating, authoritative energy that has been ruling us for the past 2,000 years. My possessions, intangible things. We're no longer in alignment with these things. We have served our karma here. And again, the elites that rule us will try to keep us in power. Will try to keep power over us, rather. But this is the time, specifically, what they have really been afraid of, because it's more air. So they've been building, I think, if you go back to the 1980s, which is when we had our first Libra conjunction, and that's when the computers came out, and a lot of different technology and devices were invented, and they did their best, which after that Libra conjunction passed, it went back to Earth, which gave them that power too to stay in power, to continue to have control over us. And we're going to see that change over time. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go along as well. But again, this is what they've kind of been afraid of. The awakening. Saturn and Aquarius will try to keep control of us by way of lockdown, vaccines, media, shootings, especially the shootings, to try to keep keep us in emotional distress. That's a lower vibration, which, by the way, I had posted something talking about how the revolution should be more, don't let your right hand know what you're doing. I know everybody wants to see riots and be in the streets protesting, even if it is peaceful protesting. It's a lower vibration. You got to do your research, folks, seriously, to know the difference. And I think I used the example of the Buddha. It's just really about not letting your enemy get to you. So if you knew that somebody was intentionally poking at you to get a rise out of you, because it, like when you get into an argument. My grandfather had this saying. He used to say, if you argue with a fool from a distance, nobody can tell the difference. So you both end up looking really bad. And so the point of the whole idea of being the Buddha is, if you ever notice, they'll always kind of have these storylines, especially in cartoons, where somebody who is a Buddha is being poked at, but you can't get their attention. They stay focused. They stay on, eye on the prize. And because we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the people, we have to be at this higher level of activation to get what we want out of this. Learning more about science, understanding the esoteric, metaphysical, knowing how to decode, and kind of those things that they've kept hidden from us for so many years. All that stuff. I've been saying this whole year, that everybody thinks 2020 was the awakening. But if you have glasses, then you know that when you get your prescription for perfect eyesight, it's actually 2021. So if you think this year was bad, look, and again, the energy is not going to be as heavy because we are going to be in full effect of this Aquarius energy. But the truth bombs that are going to drop, like, people still think that microwaves, it's okay to use a microwave. Like, they don't know that when you're using a microwave and you're eating that food, the radiation is eating away at your body. Like, you don't know the type of effects that come with using a microwave. Like, that stuff is going to come out, and it more science in relation to the body and how to get more grounded and more efficient in your health in general, to be able to really suck up the energy that Aquarius is going to be bringing to us, because we're really not going to have the option to ignore this higher power. You know, whether you feel it internally or you have some outside things coming into you, you are going to get major downloads, wake up calls, realizations, aha moments, like channeling, like meeting people through a mentorship. Like, what do they say when the student's ready, the teacher shows up? Like, I feel like that's going to be the entire year of this whole Aquarius energy, especially with Saturn, because Saturn, I mean, it could be with the Sagittarius South Node too, you know, because that kind of is the teacher, but both Saturn and Jupiter together having those energies is you know, could be energy of teachers, mentors coming in to because you're ready to grow in some form or fashion. Like, I think that's going to happen on a massive, massive level. I think another really good example, like, I used to do a lot of teaching in the prison system, and I talked about this in videos, like, when I first started doing this, which was like maybe a year or so ago. It feels so much longer than that, but I would tell people that, tell the men in prison that I was teaching the classes to, like, you know, when you first see, like, you're doing all the research to get a car, like, you're looking for a car online on your phone, whatever. You're possibly even going to, like, different dealerships to look at a car, but you have a car in mind, right? You just want the right color, the right interior, the right look, the right, you know, amount of least damage, right? Especially if you're thinking about getting a used car. But once you get that car, you start to see that car everywhere, right? You know how stuff like that happens to you? Well, that's what awareness is. And that's kind of like the conscious level of what Aquarius is going to bring. The lies, the deceit, you know, everything that they've hidden from us is going to come out in such a major way. And it's going to be an even bigger wake-up call, like, oh my God, I've been living my life like this for so long. And I think I talked about this also in the Jupiter and Aquarius video, where, like, you know, you're just going to start to have these wake-up calls. And you know, once you understand or know that something is a lie, it's no longer real. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, you forget it, you're over it, you're like, all right, so I see where this is going. You know what I mean? So again, they will try to control us by way of lockdown, vaccines, media, the shootings, causing that emotional distress, like they did with the Black Panther. Sad story what they did there. Then they have 5G, the artificial food, AI, implants. I don't know why when I was writing this stuff down, I was thinking of the movie The Runner. Like, that movie, between that movie and I, Robot, just like really kept coming up in my mind. Like, this is what times we're moving into, like what our lives are going to look like. And I feel like we're always going to be, you know, the people who are hip and awake are going to be the runners. You know, they're going to be constantly living out on the streets, like the homeless. I always think of like, people think that they are in undesirable situations. But I've worked in that population for years and sat down with them, interviewed them, had conversations with them, and a lot of them chose that life, to live on the street because they didn't want to be on the system. And most of them have been through war or through the military. And just imagine the amount of secrets they know and why someone would choose to live on the street over, having a home, and all this kind of stuff here. But when I think back about those things now, I'm thinking on this time, like, this is what this is. This is also another way to think about Aquarius. Aquarius is also the Bohemian. And all Bohemian means, and you could look this up, don't ask me how to spell it. I think it's like Bohiamans. Bohemians. But all Bohemian are the people who were living caves, who are okay with living in caves. The people who live off the grid, like they grow their hair, they don't shave, they don't cut their hair. And were we not all stuck in the house, not able to shave, and everybody you can see their hair growing out, and full face, especially for the men. I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that, and not because that's like the way it should be, but when I think of people having to live off the system, like, we're just not going to have access to everything that we have before. So we're going to have a complete mind shift about what the new look is, and all those kinds of things there. And those are for the people who want to live off the grid. Now, for the people who choose to stay on the grid, that's all going to be digitized. You'll be in the cameras, having the face. Like, I think they already have a lot of this stuff too, where you could change the way you look by looking in one of the face changer thingies where it kind of calculates your face, and then you have makeup on. And I feel like it's going to move more into that digitization, by way of fashion and all that stuff there. But I can go off on a tangent. I'm trying to keep track of time because I can be on here all day. I love talking about this stuff. But basically, an artificial world, like either one of those movies, where you're kind of living virtually, or you're on some kind of machine and you're living your life through a virtual reality. Meanwhile, the whole world looks like it's been through a freaking war zone. Like, that's what I meant about, living like homeless people, because there's no land, there's everything. They got fires lit up to use as a way to get heat, and you know what I mean, like those types of things. But no man's land, that's kind of what it felt like anyways. But but just remember that if you are in a machine, and I'm not here to tell anybody what to choose, by the way, everybody has their fate and their karma and what they're meant to live out in this lifetime. Like, you're not going to be able to fight that. I mean, I do feel like now as humans we have more of a choice than ever before, but your karma is your karma. But just being mindful that when you're on a machine, you're sleeping. And remember, they are trying to keep you asleep so that they can continue to monitor you on an even deeper level than they've been doing, because they understand. And I mean the elites, the people who are trying to keep us in control. They understand how powerful we are as a people, and that if we woke up on such a massive level, such as this kind of energy, they no longer have control over us. So that puts them out of business. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Meanwhile, oh yeah, I've already talked all about that. This is what they've kind of been studying about us for years. They've been planning for this for years. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like they, like who was I listening to? Made a really good point. Real Nagas, I think his name is on YouTube. If you're not following him on YouTube, you need to subscribe. Like he goes in with the metaphysic and esoteric knowledge. Like he's breaking down numbers, days, the planets versus the Zeus, and in relation to the lords, the gods. He's dope, but he made a really good point by mentioning oh shoot, what did he say? They've been studying us for years. Like I want to say it was back in 2008. Yes, 2012 and 2008, when we had the financial crash, the stock investment crash. And then I think it was 2000, or maybe it was 2012, when like that was supposed to be the end of the world or whatever. Like those periods of times were times where this change was actually going to happen. But again, we still had all that energy in earth signs, so it allowed them to prolong their storyline. But yeah, I think that thought kind of evaded my brain, but if it comes back to me, I will bring it up. But it was just really interesting. If you haven't heard his channel, I would definitely go listen to him. But I'm just trying to figure out where I was now. So another thing to keep in mind is that the technology, they've been studying the technology of melanin, which is why I think, which is the pigment in your skin, melanin. I know there are a lot of people who know what melanin is, but we are the science. You know, that's just the bottom line. That melanin, like damn near everything that's built on this earth has been about melanin this entire time. It's powerful. They want it. They want to control it. They don't want, because I think it was back in 1245, when the Moors were in control, was the first time that Aquarius was, they had this conjunction in Aquarius. And what happened was, and this is another thing that I learned in the cosmology class. So we kind of had, I wish I could show you a picture, but all these diagrams that kind of showed the tree, the story of the tree and the fall of mankind, us, ours, melanin, and you know the Moors. Go look up the Moors, Moore, who were the ancient rulers of that time. I'm pretty sure if it's not 1245, it was 1226. They were the rulers, and back then the people of melanin were the people who were in control, the same way the elites are now. And we had the slaves, you know, they were the slaves, and that's what they've been afraid of once they gained power and took over, which was the fall of Saturn. That's what it is, the fall of the planet Saturn, which rules the Moors. I've been telling people little bits and pieces about this. I don't really talk too much about this esoteric knowledge and information, but you know, Saturn rules black people, and any astrologer can tell you this. It's the 400 years of slavery, and that melanin in the skin of black people is kind of what they've been studying. Like, how have we been able to continuously overcome everything that has been thrown at us? And it's just the power that we possess, because it is science. It is the cube. You know what I mean? It's the spark of life. You know, it's the alpha and the omega. It's that powerful. And they've been trying to keep that under wraps, and they've been using our knowledge and understanding of science to control us that way and keep us from knowing how to tap into that power, because when we do it, because we are that energy, it's, you know, a lot stronger. So when people say things like you are what you create or you are what you speak, you know, understanding how language really works, understanding astrology. Astrology is, I can't even begin to tell you how powerful astrology is, but because I'm trying to build a class around it so that people can study, but on a more personal level. Not that I'll be doing any teaching, but just to know your planets and your placements and to understand what those things are for you. Like, not to say that you have to be an astrologer, but you know, for you, for yourself, how powerful that is alone, because that is our science that aligns us with who we are and who we're meant to be, what to look out for, why we don't do well with certain things, like coming out of that energy of what we've been taught all these years, which is, you know, fake it till you make it, and you know, these kind of Piscean things that we've learned throughout the age of Pisces. But like I did a video on this too. I just can't remember the name of the video. I think it's like, what is astrology? And I did like a short, very brief, like, description of my definition of astrology. And the way I broke it down right in the beginning is I'm talking about oh my God, what is his name? Why is my brain not working? Benjamin Banneker. So he wasn't the first astrologer, but he was an astrologer, and you know, the people who study the planets. He built the White House. He built. He didn't invent time, but he invented the first watch. He built the tower in Washington, D.C., the clock tower, the tall tower. And he didn't build the White House, but he did the blueprint on the White House. And the White House blueprint is based off of astrology. I don't know if anybody's ever heard the story. It's very old. This goes to show you how long I've been studying astrology. I read all of Benjamin Banneker's books. I am his biggest fan. I'm sure of it. But he also did the Empress, and what is it, the thing they use to for farmers, the almanac. It's like based off of a system that tells you when it's the right time to harvest. And the almanac is the same thing, but it's for the planets. And I think they're created every 2 years in advance, right? So like for me as an astrologer, if I say wanted to study 2 years ahead of information and have, you know, do blogs or whatever about that, I could go and do that. And I say all that to say time Saturn, this is the fall of Saturn. Like we had to karmically experience this fall to see what you know, what we were doing. You know, it's karma. We have to pay our debt to having slaves and not allowing to share the power. So another thing that I've been talking about is giving balance back. This time around, we're going to have to do it differently in order to avoid that karmic cycle, right? Because if we keep doing the same thing over and over, you know, that's not healthy. So, you know, this whole white and black thing is, there's going to be an elimination to this kind of race stuff. You know, we really, really, really need to, obviously, you know, colored people, African American people, black people, whatever you want to call it, have been through a lot, and we need to pick ourselves up before we can help anybody else. But once we do, we need to make the conscious decision to include equal rights to everybody, right? That is going to be huge in this process moving forward, or we will repeat the past. Um, yeah, so I just went on a tangent there. But yeah, 2021 is not going to be easy. This year, I think, is going to be more difficult because they're going to up the ante. The elites are going to up the ante on trying to control us by all those means that I mentioned before. Again, vaccines, lockdown, media, the shootings for the emotional distress, 5G, artificial foods, AI, implants. You know, they're already saying like you have to, in order to get the PPP loans. Is it the PPP loans or the um, I don't know why my brain's not working, but that free money, they're like, they'll give it to us, but only if we take the vaccine. That's crazy. I think we'll see more of that. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are going to fall for it again because of the time that we're in. Like, we're just over it. We're over them. But this year should have been the fall, but because this year was still in favor of the elites by way of having all that Saturn energy, and we had all those retrogrades, it kind of again expanded their time until now. Um, However, Pluto is moving into Aquarius 2023. Pluto unveils evil plans, like with the fall of the government that has been going on since 2008, because Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008 and will be until 2023. It will be the deconstruction of the evil science that they could possibly come up with and plan, and have been planning for years, like I mentioned before. So Pluto, poor Capricorns. I swear, every time I talk to a Capricorn, I can literally feel their whole heart breaking because Pluto is just, it's not an easy planet. Like, Pluto is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it literally breaks anything that it touches down into its simplest form to rebuild it back up into that Phoenix rising energy. And again, it's been there since 2008 and will be until 2023. And unfortunately, you know, on a personal level for Capricorn people, this has been brutal. I do believe the energy will ease up, but you know, it's just a lot. Like, you guys are not going to come out of this the same kind of people at all. It is just going to be a complete makeover. The way you think, walk, drink, eat, everything is going to change, which also, you know, on the world stage. They're going through the same thing, which is what Capricorn rules: government, structures, systems. You know, none of these things are working for us anymore. And the things that are, obviously, like I mentioned before, we're going to keep what is working. But even down to your possessions and homes. I talked about this in another video where I kind of feel, actually, it was my last, my first webinar that I ever did, which I regretted posting that video. I think it came out horrible, but it was still a lot of good information, so I had to get over myself. If you haven't gotten a chance to listen to that video, try to ignore what the look is and, you know, focus on the message. But I broke down the energy of that Pisces. When when Neptune moves into Aquarius, and how that's going to change, like, because Neptune rules Hollywood, so we can already see the changes that are happening there with Hollywood. But I feel like, even down to like rich people, people who have money, because possessions, earth is money, your income, you know how we make money. I think that is going to change on such a massive level, and I'm not saying that like people can't be rich or won't be rich, but I definitely feel on some kind of level that, again, we're going to be on the same equal playing field. And of course, some people will accelerate and do super, super well. But in order to maintain that, you're still going to have to live a very low maintenance kind of life, right? Because again, we don't have that. That system and structure of being able to get the support from um, um, the system. And so that's going to change the stock markets. It's going to change what's mainstream. And, I can't quite put my finger on it to say what it is or what it's going to look like, but I definitely feel like it's going to be more constricted because we are literally almost like freaking starting over. And it might be hard to see that or to think about it that way, but we are going to have a recession. Our value is going to change. We already know the money. They're just creating money like it's not real, like it's not freaking real. You know what I'm saying? So whatever new system or structure they do build it on, the value has to grow. It's almost like starting from scratch somehow, some way. I just feel like America is going to go through a huge change. And I want to kind of stay away from the negative energy. But if you go back and listen to all those videos where I kind of break those things down, we're going to possibly go back to bartering. And before we get to this place where we can even think about what it means to be rich or a millionaire or a billionaire, I just feel like on some massive level that's going to change. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that next year is going to be the grand finale, and it's going to be downstream from there. But I don't think it's going to be bad either. You definitely want to keep in the back of your mind to be flexible, be open to anything and everything, because it's Aquarius. Aquarius rules electricity, so not only is it fast, but it's also unstable. You could be doing something one minute and to the next it's like, oh no, forget it, we're gonna do this. Very unexpected shifts and changes happening. That's probably the biggest downside to Aquarius energy. But yeah. So I talked about this earlier. This could be the death of a leader like Kennedy. Kennedy wanted to tell the truth, but he was killed because it was, again, when all that happened, it was in earth signs. So the energy and support was for that there, for them to, continue doing what they had been doing. In fact, at that time, that's when they kind of started dominating other countries, and that's when we had all the wars. If you go back and watch all those movies from back in that time, you will see how they gained control over going to other countries and quote unquote owning that, or this, again, going back to I own, like this land is mine, and whatever lie they sold to those countries to get them to start working with them, it worked. And that's all going to change now. That is all going to change. Especially with the those drug movies. I feel like all those drug movies, especially when you've seen them going overseas to get the drugs in another country, like they ain't telling the backstory to that, obviously. But that's what they were doing in the back end, as they was taking control, making deals with other countries for their goods and services, and all that stuff. They're giving them power over us, really, because one of the truths that will come out about all of this is that and people are probably already seeing this, especially people who are in goods and clothing, fashion. A lot of people are going to have to start doing that manufacturing here, especially with Sagittarius and the South Node. So the South Node kind of is like the area of life where we separate ourselves from, and not completely and fully, but something about that area of life and what that area rules is changing. And Sagittarius is international, foreign countries, long distance travel, which we can already see those things taking place. But on a grander scale, where are we getting our fruits, where are we getting our you know, clothing, materials for clothing. I'm trying to think. I don't really know much, but all those kind of manufacturing jobs where they would do all that stuff out in other countries. I think they was charging them super, super cheap, and then shipping it here and selling it for like trillions of freaking dollars and paying those people penny on the dollar. And that's going to change. And we're going to start having to make our own clothes, using our farms. Like, all of our farmers are struggling because nobody really uses them. That's going to change. We're going to, again, and I've been talking about this in all my Sagittarius and Gemini videos, where it's going to be more about the community and having community, not farms. I mean, farms could be a thing too if you're in a rural area. But like the farmers markets and the what do you call those gardens where you can go to plant your own stuff? Those kinds of communities. Those things are gonna grow, because where the heck are we gonna get the food from in the stores now? I don't see the change in the food in the grocery stores yet, but I think it might come sooner than later with all this Aquarius coming back into effect. Because if you go back to, what was it, March, May, June, when Aquarius had that dip into Saturn, back then, that's when the food shortage came and everybody was buying up all the toilet paper. Remember that? That was Saturn in Aquarius. So again, we are going to have to get real strategic. And I think they already started implementing like a little bit of that at that time, where you could only have like elderly had the chance to shop first, and anybody else had to wait till a specific time, and only certain people in at a certain time because of COVID, and which is bullshit. But peace and blessings to anybody who had actually suffered COVID. I don't want to be dismissive to that, but they're using that shit as a way to keep us in control. But again, just going back to a lot of those rules and things that they had. They might try to implement that, but unfortunately, I really think people are going to fight back this time. They're not. Like, people are over it. We've been in lockdown for 9 months. We're going stir crazy. People are about to lose their shit. But also on an astrological level, thinking about it realistically, again, if we're talking about, we're in debt, we really can't afford to do things the way that we've been doing them. And this is why I said the protesting and the revolution as to the way you might want to see it happen, just because, you want to burn off some, you got some shit on your chest, and that's understandable. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't, to discount your feelings and emotions. Nonetheless, it's a lower vibration, and we do need to change, and this is that opportunity. So if we're rioting and fighting, how can we have a conversation? Remember what I said. My grandfather always said, When you argue with a fool from a distance, people can't tell the difference. And what the hell are you really resolving? Like, being all the way 100. If you're tired of living a certain way, you also have to be tired of the way that you were doing it. You also got to be tired of the fact that you're playing a role in this, whether you're arguing the fact, not arguing the fact. We got to meet in the middle somewhere to be able to have a conversation to figure it out. Not to give it to you straightforward. Tell them how you really feel, Keisha. But I'm just saying, I get really passionate about this stuff because I do understand. You don't think I want to, revolt and scream hurrah? Sure, why not? I can get some shit off my chest too. Go fucking work out or something, like, just use your energy in a more intelligent, smarter way, because there's a time and a place for everything. And to be quite frank, I don't think this is the time or the place to be in that kind of energy. And it's also not what Aquarius is saying either. Although the energy is there for it, but it's not the higher vibration of that energy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And just remember, the longer you stay in that energy where we're not having solutions over, anything else, that when things don't get fixed or resolved, just remember what role you played in that. You know what I mean? And that's not, again, to be so straightforward, but, Saturn was like, grow the hell up. All this time. That's what Saturn was here for, to teach you to make better decisions, to choose when you're not going to fight. Again, I'm not saying don't fight. I'm just saying make a better decision as to when you're going to do that, because it makes a difference as to how soon or how long we're going to be stuck in this energy fighting over dumb shit when it needs to change anyway. You know what I mean? I'll shut up now because I'm getting upset, but because it makes me so frustrated. But I get it, though. I get it. But this time around, they'll try to monetize everything, like I said, using the tracking devices, with your phone, every goddamn thing. They want to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, all that. But what you're looking up, who you're looking up, what you're eating, who you're talking to. I do believe, and I talked about this in another video too, that they'll start trying to control us through our speech on social media. So you can already see that now. I don't know if anybody's ever typed anything about COVID, but even if you put COVID in there, you get this big ass message about, if you need help, blah, 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 blah. I think there's going to be more of that. I even think that they'll start to shut actual internet feeds down on these bigger social media platforms, which is why I started posting other social media platforms just to be mindful of, that you might want to have ready and prepared just in case you want to talk about some real shit and you get cut off because of what you're talking about. So yeah. Big gatherings, Aquarius rules groups, in places where you gather, like concerts, house parties, family gatherings, stadiums. All those things are going to change. Things about aliens, they're going to continue to try to hide from us, which, by the way, I genuinely think that we are the aliens. I also do believe there's other alien form, just people. It doesn't necessarily have to even be the idea of what we think or know of aliens, but Dr. Delbert Blair, who has long passed, may his soul rest in power, talked about this quite on such a common sense level, because everything they teach you, they try to trick you, so you gotta get more creative and be more open to who you're listening to and what information you're taking in. And his explanations are so dope to the idea of aliens. And it also comes down to, again, your language and the words that you use. This language, they done chopped and screwed it up so damn bad. What you think you may know, I'm just saying, you go check out Dr. Blair. I can only imagine that his stuff still has to be up. I haven't checked since he passed, but um, I mean, his knowledge and information's got to be out there somewhere. He dropped some serious gems on the idea of what you might think aliens are. So, travel, supplies and goods. Again, all these things are going to change in a major way. Um, we will find alternate ways to do everything, and even possibly like alternate medicine, because Uranus, which is the ruling planet of Aquarius, is in Taurus, an earth sign, and Taurus rules um, uh, earthly medicines, like all the natural medicines, like oh my gosh, like your oils, these things, stones, crystals, um, farming, food, natural food, good, value natural food. So somehow, some way, our value system is going to change by way of Aquarius ways. I'm thinking maybe even because Aquarius rules the people and it's really about the people, that it'll be more universal health care, even possibly. And even if they don't change it, at least anytime soon, to universal health care, it'll definitely be, which I think we're already seeing a great deal of this, where people are doing more healthy stuff, like just using more natural things to clean ourselves, to connect with our body, to put in our body, to eat. All of that. All of that has the potential to grow in a very tremendous way. I think we'll do more home health care visits. Again, I broke all this down in my first webinar, which is now you can find on my YouTube page, the whole video. I did career and business trends for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So healthcare visits, I think, are going to turn into home care visits. Traveling is going to be more. No, not traveling. I talked about traveling. Traveling nurses is going to grow even more, but not necessarily outside of the country so much, although it could be. But again, Gemini's in the North Node, and Gemini rules the community. So I do believe over time that we'll see a lot more home health care stuff going on. So I talked about this a little bit already too, about how they started all these inventions back in the 80s, because we had our first conjunction in an air sign, which was Libra. This was the invention of paper, computers, technology, the internet, Atari. I don't know if anybody remembers the video games and devices. There will also be an economic reset. I talked about that too. But the dollar has no value. Everything will be digitized to Bitcoin or Ethereum, I believe it's called. And I think the only difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is that Ethereum is the actual wallet where your money will be held, as opposed to Bitcoin. And there was a big thing about the difference between Bitcoin and oh my God, what the heck is the other digitized money? There's another name for it. It's really skipping my mind right now. But Bitcoin, there's some, still gives them some power to control it. Like they'll be able to take money from you without asking, all that stuff there. And that other type of digital money that I'm having trouble thinking of is the real freedom. So we really got to be careful with that too. But the problem with that field is it's so freaking new. It's like finding the people who know about that stuff is crazy. I remember watching a video because I took Dr. Boyce Watkins' class for investments, and he had this guy on there who was talking about Bitcoin and that other one, which I can't remember, but he was telling us he broke it down that he kind of already had a system that he was using with farmers, with men and women who had their own farms, and how they were able to capitalize off of that. And the beautiful thing about it was that the government couldn't touch them. So I'll try to remember, go back to one of my videos if I can find it, to see what that was, because that's going to be very important. But the stock market again will be arranged, because the markets are going to change, jobs will change, and again I broke all that stuff down in that other webinar. We need to be very adaptable over the next 2 years as we go through this change, because it's really like a learning process right now. Air is a much higher vibration than Earth, so sudden changes very fast. Again, going back to that Uranus energy, it rules electricity, so it's going to be electrifying and possibly nerve-wracking, like literally your nerves, because it's the higher octave of Mercury, and Mercury rules your mind, your thoughts, so you can literally freaking go crazy, have some kind of like channeling, or like and the reason I connect that to the mind is because Neptune rules like mental health, and mental health on so many different levels. Most people might look at people with mental health issues as somebody who channels or has some kind of spiritual powers and things of that nature. That those are kind of inconclusive. They're all inclusive to the same kinds of energies, but yeah. We really need to understand who we are now by way of science and esoteric knowledge. I think I said real Nagas. I think it's REELNAGAS as one person, and then Black Magic 363. They're always doing stuff, which you can also find on YouTube. I'd go through all their videos. Like, I've been watching these guys over the past 10 years, and it's changed my life. Also, the cosmology class that I took 4 years ago now. I can even give you, her name is Dr. Nateri. She's a real witch. Like, she's dope. And most people think that, these things are not real. Like, she changed my life. Maybe I'll tell the story one day, but I don't think it's the time now, because I'll be on here for another freaking hour. But, again, just being open to learning different things, all the weird things. Aquarius rules weird in general. It's time, all this information is supported now. And with Sagittarius being the South Node, again, it's just a student, teaching, learning. Gemini is the student too, but it rules like childhood education. So again, somehow, some way, these things are going to change over time, but specifically just talking about you becoming the student, because Gemini is in the North Node. Gemini is more about vocation and like learning through doing, and not so much book smarts. Aquarius is the higher mind. It's not so much about being book smart or going to school, although some things you might have to, but not necessarily school, but even like a course, because Geminis can sit for like 3 seconds, if that. Honestly, like, we're always on the go, even if we're not moving. Our brain is like blah, 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 blah. So we need things that are like, straight to the point, or again, where we're learning and doing, especially as adult learners. That dynamic works great, because we have so many other things that we have to do. It helps us remember what we're learning more easily. Um, so yeah. Um, so we should be learning these things to really begin to understand that we are the cube. Again, we are the spark that creates life. We can do all the things that they're creating with artificial intelligence, which is why it's artificial. You have to think, if something's artificial, what does that mean? It's not real, right? So you really got to start asking yourself, well, where is the official? Where are they getting that part from? And once you start digging into the science and understanding your body, and again, the language, the words that you use, the words that you speak, and how that relates to artificial intelligence, it will change the way you think about it. Yeah, okay. But uh, Aquarius rules equality, equal rights, fairness, honesty, true science. Okay, even though they're gonna try to demonize it, I think of the mad scientists on the lower vibration of this. The person who's again gonna try to take control by watching every freaking thing that you do, and esoteric knowledge. Science will start to benefit the spiritual upliftment of humans the more you get into this. I strongly suggest watching KT, the Arch Degree. He's the one who decodes all the movies. And when he breaks this shit down, let me just tell you something. You know what comes to mind when I think of this is the movie Spider-Man. The last movie, Spider-Man. If you have not seen that movie, go back and watch it. Where they break down how everything has been revealed. Yo, like, come on. I mean, even with the Avengers, hello, come on. I mean, the Avengers literally was the entire freaking 2020. The last Avengers movie. Go back and watch that, and you'll get some cues about, how they're playing us with this media and how real life stories are being played out. But because it's a movie, people might not believe it, or they think that it's not real. Bullshit. And KT, the Arch Degree, that man is a genius. He breaks all this down, and not only does he break that down, but he breaks it down by way of biology and how it relates to the body. And he can start even like decoding who is what body part and what that kind of represents and why it's shown. It's like he's so dope. You'd have to go back. I don't think any of his recent videos are there, and then even after a certain point he started only doing them so that you had to pay for them. They are worth the money, trust me. I have them all. But there are free ones on there, on his page. If you don't find them on his page, again, go back to Black Magic 363, because they like all grew up together, and he did a lot of his decoding on Black Magic 363. So they really do amazing stuff there on that channel. But it's just the basic understanding of what the chakra system is, and how the chakra is actually the story of Jesus being born, and that whole Bible story. Yeah, I don't get into it that deep. The reason why it's important to fast, and how that opens up your third eye, and eating right, and how that helps decalcify the third eye in your body in general, really. But when you say the third eye, it's just an awakening. It's being conscious of everything, like I was talking about before. Like when you buy a car and then you start seeing that car everywhere, you were probably seeing that car way before, just putting it out there, but you weren't consciously aware of it. So that's just like the simplistic idea of all this stuff, but it's important to know it to that deep of a level, because it's an activation to who you are. It's going to wake you up. It's going to help you see things better on massive spiritual level, especially with this portal coming on December 21st when that activation point is open. I would even start a few days before with this eclipse energy because it's kind of like planting a seed. So, like at the darkest of the moon, if you think about it from a practice of planting seeds, you can write down everything that you want, everything that you expect this world, this new age to look like for you, even for the humanity in a positive way. Write it down a few days before, and then the day of, you can start actually doing things. Make sure that whatever it is you're manifesting at this time, that there are things that you are actually going to work towards, because this energy does not come with blessings out of nowhere. Although Jupiter is a sign of luck, and it does have the potential for that, but and just like in general, or maybe even more towards that Saturn and Aquarius energy, you're gonna have to work for it. Like Saturn is about hard work, point blank, period. You're not going to get away from that. Like these next few years is gonna be boss moves, for real. And but Saturn gives blessings for that. So you'll even begin to see that now if you haven't already, receiving blessings from Jupiter, the Sagittarius new moon that we just had, just actually like super phenomenal. But yeah. Mhm. Mhm. But yeah, so exercising, eating right, exercising, being in nature, grounding yourself, meditating, and again, doing your own research is going to be beneficial for you at this time. Um, there will be a push for freedom and innovation and excitement, just because that's what Aquarius and Jupiter, especially, but Aquarius too, kind of rules. We'll get to a point where we won't react. We'll try alternate ways. Aquarius rules alternate ways of doing things. So it'll allow humanity to raise their vibration, because Aquarius rules intelligence. It's the higher mind. Again, not book smarts, but internal awareness and understanding that, when you hear something that's bullshit, like, you walk away from it. You don't have to react. You don't got to respond. You just, okay. You know, um, just knowing that you are the internet, like you are artificial intelligence, like that part is going to become more real to you over these next 20 years, more than anything in this entire world. And it's just going to grow from there. You can receive cosmic messages, you can communicate with the other side, you can do channeling and have downloads. The more you activate and align with this energy, the more spiritually lit people in general are going to become, on a massive, massive level. If you want it, ask for it. You have to know that these portals and these times is the reason why they're trying to keep everybody in the house, because they don't want anybody else getting any of this energy. Like I said, they've been using our science for years against us and keeping it from us and keeping us in the dark about it, so that we don't know how to use it and activate it, because when we do, we're a lot stronger. And so and just in saying that, and to not go off on another tangent, but really open yourself up to this energy and dig deep in your soul about what it is you want. Write it down, recite it, hang it, post it in places so that you're constantly see it. Set up goals so that you're constantly working on it. It doesn't have to be overnight. This is futuristic energy. We're going to be working on this from now on and into the future. But, What movie was this? I had a movie that this kind of reminded me of, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this too later on. But Brother Bear. Remember the movie Brother Bear? Ah, you got to go back and watch Brother Bear. It's the place where the sun meets the earth. Remember, Brother Bear turned into a whole freaking bear. You think that story is made up? Come on. They got it from somewhere. They may have exaggerated on the details a little bit, but they got that story from somewhere, So, like, we have these abilities. This is our science. This is how we lived, going back again to the Moors when we were kings and queens. And just understanding that is really going to open up your eyes this time around. People who are ready for this change will start to separate from the system and build communities of like-minded people. They'll start to work together and support each other. Each small group should consist of people who have skills in every single area of life, like farming. Maybe you're good at making food, or somebody cooks or good at cooking. Essential items like the things you would get from CVS or even Walmart. That could be, Walmart's a big place, but let's just say clothing, sneakers, socks, underwears, those types of things. You want people who can kind of produce these things for you. Transport, making your own Uber and delivering. Turn that Uber into Uber Eats. You know what I mean? Get creative, build your own app. You know what I mean? Uber's not the only one who can freaking create an app so that you can get delivery service or transport service. You know what I'm saying? Change the dynamics of the game. Like I've been saying for like ever, like all these businesses, you start hiring people in your community. You become the plug. If you are registered as an LLC, a sole proprietor, I think there's differences to each one. So before I go on a tangent on that, you got to know what's what, but you have the ability to do that. You know what I mean? You get yourself a really good accountant, and I'm not talking about H&R Block, because there are so many benefits to having a home-based business, but we don't know any of that because H&R Block accountants are not trained to know that information. So you need to go out and get a real freaking accountant that knows the system, that knows the codes that you have to use and things of that nature to get this money that you could be getting to tell you how you can hire your family and get money for that. Pay for college for your kids. To hire people and what benefits you get from that. Again, the responsibility is going to fall on the people. So you're going to have to get into this information, figure it out, and learn it, and find somebody you can trust, because that's another unfortunate thing about Aquarius, is that this comes with like cyber attacks and, fucking thieves trying to steal your money. Not that wasn't there with accountants fucking prior to this, but unfortunately, the lower vibration of this energy that can grow on a pretty extensive level. So, be mindful of who you use, or better yet, learn it for yourself so you don't have to pay for it, which is still really hard. But if you could get a family member or, your kids to do it. I don't even know about family these days, but it's so damn hard to know who to trust. I tell you, it's horrible, but, go into it open-mindedly, be open to the possibility, learn as much as you can on your own, because, again, money's not fucking real. And at some point, the dollar, it already is. They just ain't saying anything to us just about yet, but that shit is going to crash and burn. So how else are you going to make money? These are going to be the ways in which you do that. Investments, Bitcoin, all those things, those are going to be how you make your money. and these other kind of ways through by way of small businesses is going to be how people make their money. Like, they're not even going to have a lot of employment, and for the places that do, they'll all be work from home. Everything is going to be digitized, and not just because of corona, but because people are going to begin to understand that, again, America's in debt. So if you have a building that you're paying for and you realize, oh shoot, I can get all my people to work home, you can still produce the same amount of work and be at home, and I don't got to pay for this rent, what do you think's going to happen? Like, it might be a lot longer over time before we see that officially take place. And not all businesses this is going to be relatable to, but on a pretty grand scale, this is going to change. This change is happening, so thinking about being open to all of these things is going to be crucial to your survival. Doing things like susus, I think they're called. Um, um, Brother Polite was another one of the guys who was a part of that crew of people, although he's kind of been distant from them, but I still think he does his own thing, and he has like 7 wives. And I'm not saying that like that's going to be a thing of this time. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because he used to talk about the reason why he had 7 wives, and like the history behind why people have 7 wives, and like the real of that culture, and kind of what it was created for, which was to build communities. So the idea is that you had so many wives because you had to build communities, and the way to do that was to have children with 7 different women to, again, build them. But the idea was to build them so that they all had responsibilities. To break it down in a more modernized way, it's like people who have what they would call baseball teams or basketball teams, like kids. Like when people have like 7 kids, they're like, oh, you got a whole basketball team. But, when you have that amount of kids, like your trajectory of how you raise them and the importance of how you do that changes on a massive level, right? So you'll hear people like them saying things like, their kids work for them, or, they have to live a certain kind of life because it's expensive. But, that's how you channel the expenses, is by making your family your business, making sure that everybody has a skill, something that they're good at, kind of these things that I've been talking about. So, like, I say all that to say that I think other cultures do this really well. Like, I feel like that is a culture of their culture, of their ethnic background. And susus is one of those things that they do. I don't know if anybody remembers this video of this black guy. He was crying, and in the video he was like, yo, I just watched 7, I think they were Mexicans, buy a house that he had been trying to get his family to do. I could have made that part up, but he said he watched them. He's like, there was like 7 of them. And he's like, and I watched them build that whole house. And, this shit was so fucking, it's not funny. Like, I'm not trying to laugh at his pain, but it was so real what he was talking about. Like, I think the way other cultures build off of one another, where somebody will have something and build and build and build until they get to millionaire status, let's say, and then the next person comes in and they'll build and build and build till they get to, that's kind of when I think of susus, like that's what I think of, that kind of process where we're going to gain that kind of culture somehow, some way that is going to be massive to how we're able to, you know, financially support each other. Um, but yeah, I even think that because this is such in relation to other countries, that somehow, some way, they'll be helping us and we'll be um, um, benefiting from this somehow, some way. Even though Sagittarius is South Node, and that idea of long distance is going to change. But again, for the first time ever, everybody, which I don't have to tell you, we're all on the same equal playing field. So we're all going through the same thing. So we're going to figure it out as people, but not through governments per se, so much. But yeah. And I just think that we can learn a lot from other countries. But we will learn that, you know, the elites and the lie that they've been selling, you know, is full of shit, and move to smaller communities. And that will grow. And Aquarius rules self and independence and the humanity, which is just another indication that, you know, that idea of smaller communities is going to grow. We are maturing and no longer want to be ruled by the government. That's keeping us in this low vibration. The elites in control will be a thing of the past. They will have to give us more freedom. And I believe in 2023, smaller communities will become more mainstream. And and that's how the old kind of becomes irrelevant. Just to keep that in mind, you know, that we do have the power to make the change. We just gotta, you know, make that change, make the decision to do things differently. You know, I believe over time we will be more like enlightened humans. Again, where we can communicate with other lifetimes. Again, Brother Bear. Another movie is The Mannequin. Remember that movie where she came from an entirely different time? Again, they got that shit from somewhere. You know, they might have made up a few things in that movie. But for the most part, they got that idea from somewhere. Just saying. You know, I really do think that we are the humans, but whatever. Parallel dimensions of life. Like, I think we're going to be open to all that. But more like the indigenous people, as opposed to kings and queens. If we're doing any kind of research going back to, you know, who or what time we choose to be like, I would say more towards Brother Bear than Mannequin, because even kings and queens, there's a hierarchy in that system. So, you know, indigenous people were more like the small groups of people, and everybody was on an equal, you know, what I've been talking about. There were nobody was higher than one other person. Everybody had specific skills that they were good at. And, you know, to eliminate the competition or indiscretions, or like going back to the classes that I taught when I worked with the prison, what we would teach a lot of the men who ended up in prison for selling drugs on someone's corner, you know, how there would be turf wars. You know, the way you eliminate that is you change your product. You know, what's your product? First of all, we weren't teaching them to sell drugs, by the way. Second of all, you know, that we said change your product, like no more drugs. You know, again, learning your skill, who you are, what you're good at, and what's your brand. You know, that's how you're different. You know what I'm saying? And that goes to what, like, if you're selling something the same as somebody else. You definitely don't want to have two of the same creatives in one group. That's why I said one. Everybody has to have one in particular person to each creative aspect, so that we can barter off of each other, and it's paying ourselves off or out in some kind of way. But that's more of the indigenous way, I think, as opposed to kings and queens. So, yeah. The further you go back, you also learn about how religion, they played us with religion. Before religion became religion, it was philosophy, and all philosophy is a way of life. And now that they have like freaking 6,000 of different ways, like the Buddha. You got the Dogon people who can fly, the Dogon tribe, the monks. All those are different philosophies. I remember I took a world religion class when I was going for my bachelor's degree, and I had to do a project on all the different religions and how I thought about them, and all this other stuff. And the one thing that I learned was, again, how they took control over us, how there became so many different religions, because I forget the freaking, it wasn't even a book, it was an article I read about how, I think they're called monasteries, people who are, or no, maybe monasteries is not the right word, but like those people who would travel the country for different religious groups to go to other countries to help like take care of people, or like back then it was like to help take evil spirits out of people, and kind of help people, even if it was just like passing out food. It didn't necessarily have to be a exorcism, but like back in the days, I think that was kind of like what that movement was really all about. And once the elites who was in control learned all of this, they changed it all. So like, I think they still do those traveling religious groups now, but they ain't taking demons out of people. That's for sure. They stole all of our spirituality from us and hid it and used it for themselves to kind of keep power over us and keep us in the dark. So, but it was very interesting reading that and even taking that class in general, is that you really kind of learn how we got into this mess. The further you go back, the more research you do, it opens up your mind to so many different ways of looking at things, and it elevates you. Again, you're not so easy to be gullible, have the wool pulled over your eyes, because your truth. So another long short story about that. But yeah. Overall, I think that Saturn square Uranus that we'll have will be the like the Matrix. If you haven't watched The Matrix, it's probably one of the most popular movies in the esoteric metaphysical world, because it's literally the difference between being asleep and choosing to be awake. And that's what I think Saturn square Uranus is going to be about at this time of this portal. People are going to choose. Are you going to get the vaccine? Are you going to get the tracker? Are you going to be a part of the digitization world? Or, are you going to choose to be like the runners, like I was talking about before, and like the homeless people, and choosing to live off the grid? The red pill or the blue pill, which one you going to choose? And I do feel like over time, regardless, people are going to, like, I don't think we're going to be able to avoid it. Like, I just don't. I'm sorry. I think up until about, again, the next 20 years after that, I'd even say 2023, it's going to be a wrap for them, to be honest with you. Just because Pluto will be in Aquarius, and so then Pluto will start to break down Aquarius and rebuild that back up. And Pluto is a very powerful planet, and once Pluto gets its grips on you, you're letting go, you're discreeting anything that doesn't work for your highest potential. So you know, it's a 20-year transit, I think, right? 1917. Pretty good amount of years, maybe 10 years. I should know that. But anyway, it's a pretty long transit, is what I'm trying to say. And, all that time, it's a wrap for breaking up, whatever they're trying to do. So this has been a long video. I know. I knew it was going to be long. I should have warned y'all before, but I've been so excited to do this. I hope that you found this information helpful. And if you need any of my services, again, you can find me on my website. You can find all my social media platforms on my website. I'll leave some links in the description box below. Leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah. Peace.